Okay, it looks like.
Let's go 10 minutes, okay?
Okay, let's see. Let me see. I think we're.
Let's go about 8:15 or so.
Okay, I'm waiting. Okay, so we are live. Good morning, everybody. Pardon me. This is Steve Sabadeski, publisher of BuyUBuzz.com. And today, this morning, we're going to be talking with Tyler Bridges with the Advocate, and we're going to be talking about the Louisiana legislature. Good morning, Tyler. We have about 10 minutes. So how's it going?
Good morning.
Good morning. So, why don't you tell us, what's been going on with the Louisiana legislature? We finally got some kind of compromise. Why don't you just fill us in terms of what happened from your viewpoint?
Yeah, no, it's a big deal. Steve, the legislature last night wrapped up its seventh special session under this governor and the third special session this year. And what has bedeviled the legislature and the governor is how to fully pay for the services of government. Back in 2016, the legislature met for the first special session and authorized a 1 cent increase in the sales tax, but only for 27 months to fill the budget gap left over by Bobby Jindal and the previous legislature. And ever since then, the legislature has been trying to come up with a more permanent solution to the state's budget problems. And over time, failing to do so, this has developed into a budget crisis. And now they were really up against their backs. Their backs were up against the wall in this seventh special session over the last several days because they had to solve this problem by July 1st. There's the phrase in the Capitol has been there was a fiscal cliff. That was when this temporary sales tax money was going to drop off. And July 1st is the budget year begins on July 1st. So that sales tax was going to end on June 30th. And the governor and the House, the Senate, and some House Republicans favored renewing a half a cent of the expiring 1 cent. In the last special session, which was the sixth special session, the conservative Republicans would go no higher than 0.33 of the expiring 1 cent, while the governor and the others were wanting a half. And they could not reach agreement. In this latest special session over the past week, Republicans said, okay, we'll renew 4/10 of the expiring 1 penny, while again, the governor, the Senate, Democrats in the House, and some Republicans in the House said, no, we want the half cent. So the two were at loggerheads over that. It's about $100 million, $90 million difference or so between the two. The governor and the others said, hey, we need this full amount to fully fund TOPS, food stamps, housing inmates, the other costs of higher education, pay for the operations of DA offices, a host of items. Whereas Republicans and the conservative Republicans in the House said, government's too big. We don't want to authorize that full amount. And then on Friday, after many tries, the two sides in the House, because that's where the issue was, reached a compromise agreement where, again, the governor and the others wanted 0.5. The conservatives wanted 0.4. They settled on the midpoint, 0.45. That was Friday. And then the Senate met yesterday, ratified that. And they also agreed, the House and the Senate agreed on how to spend the extra revenue that was going to be coming in. So they did what they call sine die last night, which means that they finished up. So people who are tired of the standoff in the legislature, comparing it to gridlock in Washington, that is now over.
Okay, so I'm looking at a post from Lynn Matthews on Facebook. She says that she knows it's only one half or 0.33, but where does it end? Because Louisiana is the highest tax state. I think that we're still the highest tax state. So let me just piggyback on that question, and that is to say that this deal is extended to what, 2024? Am I correct?
The sales tax renewal,
Yeah.
instead of, again, with the 1 cent expiring, they've now renewing 0.45. That gives the state a state sales tax of 4.45, right? Currently it's 5, but again, that 1 cent
Right.
is dropping off. So when you have the state sales tax at 5% on top of local taxes, the combined local and state taxes means that Louisiana has the highest sales tax rate in the country. Now that they're dropping that 1 cent down to 0.45, the combined state and local sales tax rate no longer will be the highest in the country. Overall, when you combine all the various taxes, actually Louisiana is down near the bottom in how much people pay in taxes in the state, although people probably don't feel like that.
So that's combined property tax and personal income tax. Is that what you're saying?
When you combine all taxes, again, the tax foundation out of Washington says that Louisiana is one of the lowest tax states in the country.
Okay, now the argument is that Louisiana gets more federal aid than most states. So you're saying that we're not just getting the most federal aid or close to it, but we're also the lowest tax state?
Yeah, according to the tax foundation, the tax bite from all the various tax sources is among the lowest in Louisiana. But sure, poorer states tend to get more federal aid. People in Louisiana love to blast Washington. Politicians run against Washington, but actually Washington sends the state back more money than the state sends to Washington in federal taxes.
So a question I have is this: somebody said it was like a Deus ex machina in terms of we got a windfall. We got a windfall in a sense from the Trump tax reduction in terms of more money coming into the state, and also what about the internet tax issue that just occurred last week? And I guess the combined question is, did the internet tax have anything to do with the settlement? I'm sure that the Trump tax did.
The Trump tax, the cut by Congress and the Trump administration, or President Trump last year, meant that actually, ironically, the state was going to collect an extra $300 million because of a provision in the state tax code. So when they had to figure out a way to balance the budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, the federal tax cut actually is producing more money to the state of Louisiana, so it made it a little easier. A separate issue is the Supreme Court ruling on Thursday that said that states can begin collecting taxes on over the internet, and Louisiana, like most states, is not in a position to do so. Legislation has passed the state that seems to set it up, but it's going to be a while before before the state officials can finally figure that out. But on Thursday, it did cause a stir for several hours in the legislature as they were trying to figure out how to reach agreement on sales taxes, whether actually the Supreme Court ruling would mean additional revenue for the state so they didn't have to raise sales taxes as much as they want. They ultimately did realize that ruling is not going to be of any benefit for the immediate task at hand, which was to balance the budget again by the end of this month. So again, the situation is the most important point is that the House and the governor and the others reached agreement on Friday. The Senate ratified that last night, and the legislature has now gone home.
One last question before you go home, meaning end of the show, and I really do appreciate you taking your time being with us. But the last question I have is, how do you pay 4.45 cents in state tax? I mean, what are the retailers going to do in terms of collecting 4.45 opposed to 5 cents?
Yeah, it's not like someone's going to have to take out 0.45 in terms of coinage. Typically, what happens is, from what I've read, is that retailers will round up to the next penny. So, we're only going to be talking about a small amount of money. This extra sales tax is only going to mean $30-40 for almost all Louisiana citizens. Let me just say one other thing, Steve. It's
Sure.
the legislature has met for 15 weeks this year, 3 special sessions and a regular session. They finally figured it out. I wrote a big story after the last special session on how on the final day of that special session, the 2 tax bills died, and I wrote kind of a behind-the-scenes account of how that all happened. I've now put together a story of how it all came together on Friday.
Okay.
Interviewed a number of legislators, and that story I'm thinking is going to be posted on the Advocate website today, and it'll be in the newspaper tomorrow. It'll be a long story, behind-the-scenes account of how finally it all came together.
Okay, would you send me the link, or as soon as I get it, then I'll go ahead and post it. Well, as many ways as I can. You want to talk about your book for a second? I know that you got to go, but if you have
Sure. Long Shot
Sure.
is my book on the 2015 governor's race with Jeremy Alford. Thank you for asking, Steve.
Sure.
It's called Long Shot: A Senator, a Soldier, a Serious Sin. And anybody who wants to pick up the book, they can get it at louisianalongshot.com on the net, buying it over the net, louisianalongshot.com. If they do that, they'll get a signed book by me and Jeremy, my co-author.
Sure, Jeremy Alford. Okay, and I'm sorry that you can't stay.
Behind-the-scenes account of how John Bell Edwards pulled off a stunning victory over Vitter. As you remember, Steve, everybody thought Vitter was going to win the race.
Tell me.
Everybody but John Bell Edwards.
Right. Absolutely. Well, listen, thank you so much. We have some other questions here, but I know that you have to go, so I'm sorry that we can't get to them. So, if you don't mind, why don't you just X out, and I'm going to respond to the questions.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.
Take care. So, just to respond real quickly to Tim Allen Matthews, I have a business. Where do I get to change my matrix to 4.45? Good question. I'm going to contact the Louisiana Treasury Department to see exactly what it is, what is the process, so that we can, and we're going to do a show with them. At least I'm going to ask to do a show with them so we can get this information out. Certainly agree with that issue. Alan Mason, yeah, it is regressive, no question. The tax is very regressive in terms of sales tax. And keep in mind, we're not paying property tax, we're not paying as much personal income tax. And to make your point, that we are paying sales tax to Amazon, Dell, and other companies for years, but the state's not set up, as I understand, to do that. Tinell and Matthews again, the amount of welfare recipients, yeah, no question, Louisiana is a very poor state. Why are we poor? I mean, we can go through history in terms of why we're poor, but the bottom line is that we are poor. And sure, no question, more taxes hurts business recruitment of businesses, and one can argue the more tax giveaways, then the more incentives that we provide, then the more the state is in a hole for the money, even though it does spur some economic growth. A good example of that, quite frankly, I think, is the film industry versus the digital media law. The film industry, we were giving a lot of money away to producers and to people with a lot of money, actors, etc., and so we had to curtail that. Unfortunately, the way we did it actually hurt the film industry, and so we've had to make some changes in terms of the digital media industry. That and I will say that that's a bill that I actually came up with the idea back in 2001, 2002, pattern after the film industry. And that bill, you have more people actually working for the tax incentive here in Louisiana than you had working on the film industry here in Louisiana. And so, in other words, long-term jobs for the digital media industry. So my overall point is that the tax incentives, I think, are real important for us to Louisiana. But I think it's got to be smart tax incentives, because otherwise Louisiana, the state, has got to pay what it doesn't realize in terms of taxes. So, okay, listen, thank you so much. We're going to do a show later on today or tomorrow, and I really do appreciate your being with us. I'm sorry that Tyler couldn't stay with us any longer, but it's just the way it went. And so I will post real quickly later on what we're going to be showing and who will be our next guest. Thank you.